Most men think becoming hard to get means playing games, acting cold, or pretending they don't care. That's not only wrong, it's why most men fail at it. When you actually become hard to get, something very different happens in a woman's mind, and the reaction isn't what men expect. Here's the truth. Women don't chase men because those men ignore them. Women chase men because those men have options, purpose, and emotional self-control. When a woman senses that your life does not revolve around her approval, her behavior shifts, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. This topic matters because many men unknowingly destroy attraction by being too available, too eager, and too predictable. They answer every message instantly. They over-explain. They try to lock things down too fast. And then they're confused when interest fades. What they don't realize is that attraction doesn't grow from comfort alone. It grows from respect, curiosity, and uncertainty. When you become hard to get the right way, you're not trying to manipulate anyone. You're simply living a life where a woman is invited into your world, not placed at the center of it. That shift alone triggers a very different emotional response from women. In this video, we're breaking down exactly how women react when you stop being overly available and start valuing your time, attention, and energy. Some women lean in, some test you, some pull away, and some reveal intentions they were hiding all along. Before we go deeper, welcome to the channel. If you're here, it's because you want to understand women better. Not from fantasy advice, but from real psychological dynamics that play out every day. This isn't about tricks. It's about awareness. When you understand what changes inside her when you change how you move, dating stops feeling confusing and starts making sense. 1. She feels the shift. Immediately. When you become hard to get, the first reaction doesn't come through words. It comes through feeling. Women are extremely sensitive to changes in emotional energy, especially from a man they're already paying attention to. You don't need to announce anything or explain yourself. The shift is felt almost instantly. Your tone is calmer. You're not rushing to reply. You're not filling silences out of anxiety. Your presence feels grounded instead of eager. And that difference lands on her nervous system before her logic catches up. She may not say anything at first. In fact, she usually won't. But internally, she starts recalibrating how she relates to you. Before, she may have assumed your availability. Now, she notices that access to you isn't automatic. That alone changes the emotional dynamic. What's important here is why this happens. When a man stops over-investing, his attention becomes more valuable. Not because it's scarce on purpose, but because it's no longer handed out freely. And value is always tied to discernment. She might notice that you don't immediately jump to continue a conversation. You don't push for plans. You don't seek reassurance through constant contact. Instead, you move at your own pace. That creates a subtle emotional tension, the kind that pulls her focus toward you. At this stage, some men make a critical mistake. They think the shift means they need to act cold or distant. That's not what's happening. You're still present. You're still warm. But you're no longer leaning forward emotionally. You're centered. She feels that balance and starts adjusting herself. She may initiate more. She may become more attentive. Or she may simply watch more closely. Either way, her emotional awareness of you increases. This moment is quiet but powerful. It's the first crack in the old dynamic where she felt in control of the pace. And when that control changes, without conflict, without drama, attraction starts rebuilding from a healthier place. The key is patience. Let the shift breathe. The moment you try to force a reaction or rush the outcome, you give away the very energy that created it. 2. Her curiosity turns into emotional investment. Once a woman feels the shift, curiosity naturally follows. Not the loud, obvious kind, but the quiet kind that sits in the back of her mind. She starts wondering about you instead of assuming she already knows you. And that's where attraction begins to deepen. When you're no longer fully predictable, her imagination turns on. She notices that you don't explain yourself as much. You don't overshare your plans. You don't chase clarity or reassurance. And that absence of overexposure gives her space to fill in the gaps herself. This is where most men misunderstand attraction. They think connection comes from constant communication. In reality, connection strengthens when emotions have room to grow. When a woman is thinking about you on her own, without you prompting it, she's already investing emotionally. What's important here is that this investment feels voluntary to her. You're not pulling it out of her with pressure or pursuit. You're allowing it to happen naturally by not trying to control the outcome. That sense of freedom makes the attraction feel exciting instead of heavy. She may start asking more questions. Not surface-level questions, but ones that try to understand how you think. She may pay closer attention to how you respond rather than how quickly you respond. She's tuning in. At the same time, she starts measuring herself emotionally. She wonders where she stands with you. And when a woman starts wondering about her position in your life, emotional investment has already begun. This phase is subtle but crucial. It's the point where interest turns into attachment. And attachment doesn't come from chasing. It comes from presence mixed with restraint. Your job here is simple but difficult. Don't interrupt the process. Don't rush to define things. Don't suddenly increase effort to secure her interest. Let curiosity do its work. The more grounded and self-directed you remain, the more her emotional investment grows quietly on its own. 3. She tests you without realizing it. When a woman's curiosity turns into emotional investment, testing naturally follows. Not because she's trying to manipulate you, but because she's trying to understand you emotionally. Tests are her way of checking whether the version of you she's starting to value is real and consistent. These tests don't usually look dramatic. They're subtle. She might respond slower than usual. She might change plans. She might question your opinion or lightly challenge your confidence. None of this is random. It's her subconscious asking, is he stable, or was this just a phase? Here's where many men fail without even realizing it. They take these moments personally. They assume interest is dropping and panic. They explain more. They chase harder. They shift their behavior to regain control. And the moment they do that, the attraction weakens. Being hard to get doesn't mean ignoring her during these tests. It means staying emotionally centered. You don't react. You don't become defensive. You don't try to prove anything. If she pulls back slightly, you don't rush forward. If she challenges you, you don't collapse or over-justify. You stay relaxed. You stay steady. And that steadiness communicates something powerful. That your emotional state doesn't depend on her validation. This is important because women don't test men they don't care about. Tests appear when attraction is present. The purpose is to see if you're grounded or if you're performing. When you pass these moments naturally, something shifts in her perception. She feels safer, not bored, safer. Safe enough to invest deeper without fear that you'll become needy or reactive later. The biggest mistake here is trying to win the test. There's nothing to win. The moment you try to control the outcome, you fail it. Your calm presence is the answer. When she sees that you remain the same man, regardless of emotional fluctuations, her trust grows. And trust is what allows attraction to evolve into something real. 4. Her respect for you grows quietly. At this stage, something important starts happening, and most men miss it because it isn't loud or obvious. Her respect for you begins to grow. Not the kind of respect she announces, but the kind that shows up in how she treats you. Respect builds when a woman sees that you don't bend yourself to fit her moods, timelines, or expectations. You're considerate, but you're not compliant. You listen, but you don't abandon your position just to keep things smooth. and that balance creates a deep sense of emotional stability. This is where being hard to get separates itself from playing games. You're not withdrawing to create anxiety. You're standing in your own center. And women respect men who are anchored in themselves. You may notice subtle changes. She listens more carefully when you speak. She doesn't interrupt as much. She checks your availability instead of assuming it. She becomes more mindful of how she communicates with you. Respect also changes how conflict works. When there's tension, she doesn't push as hard. She senses that emotional pressure won't move you. And instead of escalating, she adjusts. This matters because attraction without respect fades fast. Respect is what allows desire to last. It's what keeps attraction from turning into entitlement or emotional control. Many men think respect comes from dominance or control. It doesn't. It comes from self-respect, from boundaries that don't need explanations, from decisions that don't require approval. When a woman respects you, she feels safer leaning into her femininity. She doesn't feel the need to manage you emotionally, and that creates a more natural, effortless dynamic. This is the phase where the foundation is set, not just for attraction, but for how she sees you long-term.
5. She fears losing access to you. At some point, a quiet realization settles in. Not panic, not drama, just awareness. She understands that access to you isn't guaranteed, and that changes how she shows up. This fear isn't about abandonment, it's about value. When something feels stable but not owned, it becomes precious. She knows you're present, but she also knows you won't stay just because she expects you to. You might notice her tone soften. Her messages feel more intentional. She checks in more thoughtfully instead of casually. She becomes more aware of how she treats you because she senses that you're not a man who tolerates emotional laziness. There's a moment where she remembers how easily she once had your attention, how predictable your availability was, and now she compares that to how meaningful it feels when she has it now. The contrast matters. She may make more effort to stay connected. She may open up emotionally. She may even show vulnerability she held back before, not because you demanded it, but because she values the connection more. Picture this dynamic clearly. Earlier, she knew you would always adjust for her. Now, she feels that you choose her, and choice carries weight. When attention is chosen, not assumed, it feels earned. This is also where intentions become clearer. A woman who truly values you leans in. A woman who only enjoyed control starts pulling away. And that's not a loss, it's clarity. The mistake men make here is reacting to her increased effort by suddenly over-investing again. They mistake interest for security, and when they do, they erase the very balance that created this shift. Stay grounded, stay consistent. Let her feel that access to you is a privilege, not a guarantee.
6. She becomes more emotionally expressive. When a woman feels both attracted to you and unsure of owning you, something important happens. She opens up emotionally, not in a forced way, but naturally. Emotional expression increases when safety and value exist at the same time. She starts sharing more of her inner world, her thoughts, her feelings, her concerns. She talks more freely because she doesn't feel judged, pressured, or managed. And at the same time, she feels motivated to stay connected. This is a direct result of how you've been showing up. You're not chasing her emotions. You're not trying to fix or control them. You're simply present, attentive, and grounded. That calm presence invites openness. You may notice she communicates more honestly. She says what she wants instead of hinting. She expresses appreciation more openly. She becomes more affectionate, not because she's trying to lock you down, but because she feels emotionally safe enough to express desire. Here's the key. Emotional expression is not the same as emotional dependence. She's not dumping emotions on you. She's sharing them. And that distinction matters. When a woman feels emotionally safe with a man who still values his independence, she feels free to be herself. She doesn't have to regulate your feelings. She doesn't have to guess where she stands. And that allows her femininity to come forward more naturally. Many men misread this phase and think they've won. They relax too much. They stop leading their own lives. They assume effort is no longer required. But emotional openness isn't the finish line. It's feedback. It tells you that what you're doing is working. Your role is to maintain balance, stay grounded, stay self-directed, and let the emotional connection deepen without clinging to it. This is how attraction matures instead of burning out. 7. Most men ruin this moment without knowing it. This is the part no one warns men about. When attraction rises, most men don't become calmer, they become careless. They assume interest means security, and security makes them abandon the very behaviors that created attraction in the first place. When a woman starts leaning in, opening up, and investing emotionally, a lot of men panic internally. They think, I have to keep this. And without realizing it, they start overdoing everything again. More messages, more reassurance, more pressure to define things, more emotional dependence. This is where men need to wake up. Being hard to get wasn't a phase. It was a reflection of your self-respect. And self-respect doesn't disappear just because attraction increased. Many men stop valuing their time once a woman shows effort. They cancel plans with friends. They become overly available. They put her back at the center of their emotional world. And slowly, the balance collapses. Attraction fades, not because she stopped liking you, but because she stopped respecting how you value yourself. Here's the constructive truth. If you lose yourself the moment a woman shows interest, you were never grounded. You were just temporarily restrained. This is the moment where discipline matters. You continue leading your life. You continue saying no when necessary. You continue choosing her, not clinging to her. Also understand this. Not every woman will stay when you maintain this balance. Some women prefer control over connection. And when they realize they can't manage you emotionally, they leave. That's not rejection. That's filtration. Men who succeed in dating don't try to hold on to every woman. They hold on to their standards. Reflect honestly here. Ask yourself where you tend to overgive, overchase, or over-explain. That awareness alone will change how women experience you. Hard to get is not about being distant. It's about being rooted. And rooted men don't collapse under attention. They rise calmly within it. Here's a truth most men don't want to accept. The moment you become easy to keep, you become easy to replace. Not because women are cruel, but because attraction fades when value stops being protected. When you become hard to get the right way, you don't manipulate women. You reveal them. You see who leans in when access is earned and who disappears when control is gone. And that clarity alone puts you in a stronger position than most men ever reach. This shift isn't about acting distant or mysterious. It's about living a life where your time, energy, and emotional availability mean something. When a woman feels that you choose her rather than revolve around her, her behavior changes naturally. She invests more. She respects you more. She opens up emotionally without being pushed. If you've ever noticed a woman's interest grow when you stopped overgiving, you already understand this on a personal level. And if you've never experienced it, that's your invitation to reflect. I want you to share your experiences in the comments, moments where pulling back changed the dynamic or where over-investing backfired. I read them and I engage with you directly. Remember this, attraction isn't created by effort alone. It's created by self-respect, restraint, and consistency. Stay grounded, stay intentional, and let women respond to the man you truly are.